Now, the thing is, as far as when we had talked about evaluating the value of forward, what we had seen is that it had the value is given by the price of the commodity or the asset that is there at the time when you enter inside the contract, at the time when you enter the contract, times an exponential of the interest rate multiplied by the time period of the contract. Okay. Now the thing is, in case the value of the forward delivery, okay, the thing is, in case this particular value, it has to be equal to this value. If it was not if the value of the forward contract was not this value, that is, either it was larger than this quantity, or if it was smaller than this quantity, then the thing is there is a arbitrage possibility. Okay. So the thing is, in case f that is there, okay, the value of the forward contract is smaller than this term, okay, then in that particular case what you get is a risk-free profit. Okay. The way to see that is, when you looked at your portfolio, right, the portfolio that you had constructed, one second, sorry, the portfolio that you had constructed over here, your original portfolio that you had constructed, if you're looking at that particular portfolio, because because f that is there is smaller, okay, than this particular term, in that particular case your portfolio that is there would basically be larger than 0, okay, but you had started off with 0 net value, so in essence you're basically making a risk-free profit. Okay. Now the other case where you're having the other case, if you're having f is greater than st times e raised to r times the time period of the contract, then what you could have done is, you could have done a different strategy. In that particular case, what you would have done is, you could have taken a loan from the bank, okay, which is equal to the price of the asset, okay, at the start of the contract. You then go and buy a stock, okay. Then you do one thing, you enter into a contract to sell the stock at a delivery price f at a delivery time t. Okay. If you did that, then your portfolio at the start of the contract, okay, is just the forward contract whose value is 0 plus the loan that you have taken from the bank, which was basically minus st, okay, to buy to buy a stock which is of the value of st. Okay. This particular portfolio is of 0 value. Okay, the value of your portfolio at time t is going to be the value of the contract at time t, which is f minus st. This is because this is the value that you are going to be gaining, because you're going to be selling the stock price. If in case you'll be selling the stock price at the value, you're going to be selling the asset price at a value f, where its actual price is basically equal to st. So for example, so in that particular case, the amount of profit that you'll be making is f minus st plus the value of the loan. The loan basically has now been kept in the bank, so because of that, the value of the loan is going to be increased to the exponential of the interest rate times the time for which the contract had lasted, plus the stock value, which is just basically just st. Okay. And then afterwards, what you can see is that this particular quantity now is greater than 0, so this is your risk-free profit, even though you started off with a value equal to 0. Okay. So that is the reason that in this both the examples, whether f is one second, in both the examples, okay, in both the examples, whether f is greater than this term or f is smaller than this term, there is always a possibility of a risk-free profit. Okay. One second. Okay. So let us go here now. So this is the standard argument, okay, in these kind of problems. Okay. One second. Sorry. Okay. So the standard argument is that the investor will exploit every opportunities to make a risk-free profit, and in the process the markets will adjust prices to eliminate this possibility. Okay, so generally in case there is any kind of an arbitrage possibility, the markets will self adjust to make sure that the possibility doesn't exist. So that is the reason, as far as the contract goes, it will always be at a value given by this thing. The value of the contract is always, the value of a future contract will always be given by this value. Okay, F is equal to the price of the asset at time t times e raised to r, the interest rate, times the time for which the contract has been active. Okay, so now we'll be talking about a few more things about futures. Okay, so the future contracts, okay, whenever you get into a future contract instead of a forward contract, okay, specifically, I mean, this thing could also be applying to a future contract, forward contract, but there are something specifics to the future contract. Okay, so future contracts also specify the quality of commodities to be delivered. Okay, whether it's a low grade versus high grade. Okay, so the thing is, as far as your commodities go, right, like say if they are looking, if you're getting into a future contract which is based on commodities such as let us say wheat, tea, oil, etc. They could, it's not just a commodity just by itself, I mean, every commodity, like the quality of wheat basically matters, the quality of oil basically matters. So when you're like having a contract for a particular commodity, okay, it will always come up with these kind of explanations, these kind of tags, whether the commodity is going to be a low grade commodity or a high grade commodity, which will be delivered at the end of the futures contract. Okay, also the futures contract will specify the number of assets to be delivered. Okay, and this thing is going to be dependent on the market. Okay, so guys, as far as this course goes, as I have already said in the beginning to you guys, there are a lot of because I'm not somebody who is coming from the actual practical side of the markets. Okay, I could only tell you these things because these are the things that I have read in literature. Okay, terms like this, which is going to be telling you about the nature of the contracts. Okay, so I would ask you guys to like read more about these things to get information about it yourself. Okay, because I might not be the best possible guys to tell you all about the practical realities of all the contracts, etc., that are happening. The course over here is a quantitative finance course, and I'm going to be telling you more about how these contracts, etc., get priced. Okay, now the thing is, as far as these contracts go, the delivery dates are also specified for these contracts. That is the delivery date in case of the futures, when the particular asset is going to be exchanging hands. Okay, and the other thing is, like something that I told you guys in the beginning. Okay, the changes in the value of the future contracts are settled daily, right? So if you guys remember, when I had gone over here, when I had this particular graph, okay, I told you guys, when you looked at this particular graph, I told you guys that the delivery price, okay, the future contracts that are there, they will always be settled daily. So in case the asset value was larger than the delivery price, then in case you're the one holding the future contract, okay, to get the value to be handed over the asset at a future time, the thing is, because the asset value is greater than the delivery price, you will money will be handed over to you. Whereas in the other case, when the delivery price is basically larger than the asset value, then you will have to like pay the price to the other party. Okay, so these things that are there, they are handed. They are basically these things that are there are settled daily. Okay. Now, so if we come over here to that specific point, okay. So as is written over here, okay, changes in the value of the future contracts are settled daily. Okay, and this is called marking to the market. These are technical terms. These are called marking to the market. Okay. Then the reason is this thing is done daily so that you will try to avoid defaulting in the future. Okay, so that is the reason the traders are asked to deposit money in these margin accounts. Okay, and daily transactions that are there are about like settling the values of the future contracts are done through the money that is present in these margin accounts. Okay. Now the thing is, as far as futures go, right, the holder of futures, okay, must be compensated for holder of the future must be compensated uh, must compensate sorry the holder of the future must compensate the holder of the commodities, okay, for the storage cost. Because unlike other thing, like, say if you're just owning stocks, etc., you don't have to, there is nothing about like storing these particular stocks for which you need to be compensated. But say if you're talking about a commodity such as wheat, like 1 ton of wheat, the thing is it is going to be stored in a particular place. If it's going to be stored in a particular place, there will obviously be a cost associated with it, okay. So in case you're asking somebody to like hand you a particular commodity, like say 1 ton of wheat, okay, at a particular date in the future, you also have to make sure that you're giving this person some price for storing this particular wheat anytime he's having it, and he'll be storing it and he'll be handing it to you in the future, okay. So in order to take care of that, the adjustment to the risk free rate, okay, you can basically you can actually take care of this extra cost that is there by just adjusting the risk free rate by R plus S, okay. But the other side of the story is that because the holder of the commodity, he's actually having the commodity with him, and it could be of an immediate usage, he could basically profit through it, okay. I mean, if he's having wheat, he could supply, he could supply it to somebody, or he could he could either supply to someone, or he could basically use that particular wheat for his own consumption, etc., and he could profit from this particular usage, okay. So because of that, you also have to factor that out, and that factoring is done by getting a fraction out from the R plus S, which is equal to C. That really leads to an actual relationship between the price of the forward contract to on the price of the future contract, okay, as St times e raised to R plus S minus C times the time of the particular contract, okay. Now the thing is when these are like certain terms again, okay, when F is smaller than St e raised to this term, then it is called market backwardation, whereas the other case it is called a contango, okay. Yeah, so these are like again definitions, finance definitions, okay. I'm not an expert on these particular terms, I'm just like reading it because it's given in the textbook, and I think so it could be useful to you guys, okay. Just remember these terms, okay. Now as far as futures goes, as we said, we can have them on commodities, but also you could have them on currencies. The thing is, in the finance, there is this big market which is called the foreign exchange market, which I told you guys is highly volatile, in the sense that the market basically, like the rate, the forex market is basically a currency exchange market, okay. So the thing that is most important there is the exchange rate, and this exchange rate fluctuate widely, okay. At least that is what the claim is. So generally, whenever because the exchange rates are fluctuating widely, there are chances of higher profits as well as higher losses, okay. So now you could also enter into future contracts on foreign exchange, okay. And then in the case of future contracts in foreign exchange, what you have is that the price of the future contract is given by St, the price of the asset that you are talking about, times exponential of the interest rate minus the interest rate received on the foreign currency, okay, times T minus big T, I mean times the time for which the contract was entered into, okay. The thing is, in this particular contracts, there is no issue of storage involved, okay. So that is the reason you are not having things such as S or other factors that were there in the case of commodity futures. Now a reason why this thing enters, why you get a relationship like this, I mean, I've just like lightly told you that this thing is the interest received on foreign currency. If you looked at the textbook, that the Paul Wilmot's textbook, all he talks about is just this kind of a statement. Let us try to understand this more in detail as to why this thing is happening, okay. Why does this relation exist, okay. So in order to understand that, I have given you an explanation over here, okay. So in order to understand why this relationship exists, okay, let us try to do the fun thing. We'll again try to understand this whole process again through a no arbitrage argument, okay. What you could do is, as far as your forward contract goes, you could get into a forward contract, okay, where you get the right to own a dollar. Let us consider that, the future contract that the FX contract, the FX future contract that you're entering in is about you getting a particular dollar, okay, at a price F rupees in time T, okay. Now this is the particular contract that you have entered into, okay. So what you could do is, once again, so just a sec, okay, let me just go a little bit upstairs. Okay, let us say that the exchange rate that is there is such that, today if you go to the market and you buy about dollar, the cost that it will incur is X rupees today, okay. So your strategy could be the following, you take a loan of X rupees from the bank, from an Indian bank, buy a dollar, okay, take this dollar, put it inside an American bank, okay. Now how you actually do it, because you're sitting in India, how are you going to put that in the American bank? There could be, there might be various ways. This could be accomplished. Might be you have a friend in America who is like, assuming that you have bought a dollar, he's going to take his own dollar and put it in the bank, etc., etc. These are again practical issues of how these kind of arguments could be done. I'm just, as I told you, I'm not in the market, but I could just tell you that this thing is a possibility, okay? Because when we are talking about no arbitrage arguments, you look at all possible possibilities where you could be making a free profit, okay? So a risk-free profit, okay? So what you do is you take a loan of X rupees, buy a dollar, put it in an American bank, okay? After time T, what you see is that the loan becomes of a value xt times e raised to r times the time period, okay, for which the loan was given from the Indian bank. The dollar in the US bank, however, now has got converted into e raised to the interest rate for the American dollar, okay, times the time frame for which the dollar was put in the American bank, okay. Now the fact that and this thing, if you try to convert it, okay, into rupees, okay, you have, in principle, now you have this many dollars, okay, that is, your friend has basically got this many dollars in America, that is equivalent to you having this many dollars over here in India, okay. So the final cost that is there of these the final cost of these dollars in Indian rupees is basically the exchange rate that is going on today between Indian dollar and between the rupee and the dollar, which is xt times e raised to rt t minus big T rupees, okay. So the thing is, because we need to have that, there is no possibility of making a profit, okay. What you should be having is that the loan that is there, okay, on that you have taken from the bank, which is valued this much, should be equal to the value of the dollars that you have in rupees today, okay. So that basically, the no arbitrage argument basically sets up the exchange rates in such a format. X at big T is x at small t, that is the exchange that is there, that at big T is equal to the exchange rate of small t times an exponential of r minus rf times the time period, okay. So that being said, in order to evaluate the price of a FX future contract, okay, what you do is you consider the following strategy. You get into a future contract to buy a dollar at F rupees at time big T, okay. That is your contract that is there, is you're getting into a contract to buy a dollar at a particular price, which is F at time big T, okay. Next, what you also do is you take a loan of value xt, which is the exchange rate between the dollar and the rupee at time T, okay. And then what you do is you buy the dollar and you put it in a US bank, okay. This is your strategy. If this is your strategy, at the start of the strategy, the total portfolio that is there is the contract, which is of zero net value, plus a dollar, okay, in the American bank, plus the money that you have taken for a loan, okay. Now after at the time of the expiry of the contract, your total portfolio value that is there is going to be the value that is there at the expiry of the contract, okay. You have basically got a dollar, okay, which you basically bought at a price of Indian rupees, which is given by F, okay. The value of the contract that is there is then just the dollar value at time T in Indian rupees minus F plus the value of the dollar in the American bank, Okay, this is in so many dollars. It is just exponential of the interest rate times the time period for which the dollar was kept in the American bank, plus this particular value, which is the value of the loan. Okay, because you have kept the because you have taken a loan, this thing you will have to repay it with a particular interest. So the total value of the loan is going to be this much. Okay, now what you try to do is let me just go upstairs. Okay, in this line what you're doing is just substituting dollar value at xt is basically just the exchange rate at time big T minus f. This particular thing is, this thing was the value in dollars, the value in rupees is going to be this much. Exchange rate times this particular factor e raised to r t minus big T minus x, which was the value at small t, times this particular factor. That is just this stuff over here. Okay, now once you have that, the fact is that the net value over here was equal to 0. Okay, going from this step to this step, what I've done is the exchange rate of time big T is equal to the exchange rate of small t times this particular factor. This is just the equation that we had gone from the no arbitrage argument, that is over here. It is just basically this equation. Okay, this is the particular equation that we use downstairs. So that is over here. Okay. This is that term, the f is just over here, minus f, plus everything else is the same. Okay, going from here to here, what we have done is again use the arbitrage, again use the relationship between the exchange value between the dollar and the rupee at time big T and the exchange value at time small t. Then we will get an xt times this particular factor, and this thing is just the value that you have taken up from this line to this line. What you see is these two cancel out, and then what you get is that because the left hand side is 0, what you get is the final answer, which is given by this. Okay, so what we have done is using a no arbitrage argument, we have evaluated the price of the FX futures. Okay, given that the exchange rate that was there was just a sec. Given that the exchange rate that was there between the dollar and the rupee was xt at time t. Okay, and then what we have is this exponential factor where r is the interest rate of putting the money in the Indian bank. Okay, RF is the interest rate that is incurred on a dollar by putting it inside an American bank, and T, this thing is the time period of the contract.